Join us now here in New York, former Democratic Congressman from New York, Steve Israel. He served as chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee from 2011 to 2015 as the author of the novel Big Guns. Congressman, great to have you with us. We want to get to your piece in just a moment, but I know you're a Mets fan. I was just thumbing through the box scores, and I saw something here. 25-4 they lost last night.
The ninth inning was pretty good.
A scoreless ninth.
Gosh.
You're not here to talk about the Mets, though, thank God. Let's talk about the piece. It's a theory, interesting one. See what you think for The Hill as to what is behind President Trump, his threat of a government shutdown less than 100 days before the midterm election. Steve writes in part, is Donald Trump a Machiavellian savant who knows that his only path to re-election is to help elect a Democratic congressional majority in 2018? In 2020, he won't be able to cast down-ballot blame on his own party or run against his own congressional majority. This president is in desperate search of a foil, and what better foil than Democrats in control of Congress? Okay, so, you know, there was something, the Wall Street Journal floated a similar theory that there may be some strange genius to all this. Do you really believe it?
Look, well, the piece was tongue-in-cheek, but look, there is no rational explanation, even from an irrational president, for him to demand a shutdown of the federal government in a midterm election, less than 100 days, unless he really wants to help Democrats. And here's the experience in which I base this theory. I chaired the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, as you said. October 2013, brutal midterm environment. President Obama had been elected in 2012. We were about halfway through. The generic ballot was flatlined. I was basically cold calling candidates in competitive districts, offering them knife sets if they would agree to run as Democrats. Then what happens? October, Republicans shut down the government over the Affordable Care Act. Within days, I no longer was cold calling candidates. I didn't have enough time to call and to return their calls. The generic ballot preferred Democrats by double digits. 80% of voters disapproved of the shutdown. 53% blamed Republicans, compared to 28% who blamed the president. It shifted the environment. So what Donald Trump is doing right now is he's playing with fire. Republicans don't shut down the government in an election year because they know it's fire. It could ruin them. They only do it in off years so that they can put out the fire. Donald Trump now says, let's shut it down. Why? Maybe he wants to elect Democrats. Maybe he knows that shutdowns hurt Republicans. And why does he want to elect Democrats? He cannot afford to run in 2020 against Republicans. They're on the ballot with him. He needs a foil. What better foil than House Democrats?
Michael Steele, you buying it?
Actually, I am. In fact, I'm going to take your tongue out of your cheek, Congressman, because I think you're spot on. I've been saying this for about 6 or 8 months now, looking at the way the president has approached Republicans. He's largely agnostic as to who controls the House and, quite frankly, the Senate. Although the Senate is beneficial for Supreme Court nominees, the president doesn't really give a damn about this legislative process. You're exactly on point. The better foil for him coming out of 2018 is to spend the next 18 months haranguing against Nancy Pelosi or whomever is the Speaker of the House under Democratic control and setting them up as the narrative for his reelection. And so it's not so much about, the party. Remember, Donald Trump is not a Republican. We keep acting like Donald Trump has been a stalwart of the Republican Party since time immemorial. No, this was a political convenience for him. He's going to use the party as a political convenience for this election cycle to set up his reelect should he decide to really pursue a foil. The Democrats offer the better palette for him than Republicans.
On the other hand, Casey, the president has promised to be on the campaign trail. He said 6 or 7 days a week, whatever it takes for Republicans in competitive districts.
Well, first of all, Willie, just to go back to something you mentioned at the top of the show, I'd just like to thank the Mets for pushing down the last time that anybody scored 25 runs was against my Baltimore Orioles.
There's a new champ. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for that. But Congressman, my question for you is, what do you think Democrats might do to screw up their chances in the midterm elections? I mean, we've heard a lot about abolish ICE. There's a lot of kind of disconnect in the party. A lot of these districts that you guys need to win, sure, there's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but that's a different kind of contour than where you actually need to win to take back the House.
Casey, there are about 58 competitive districts on the battlefield right now. That may change. There may be a few more, a few less as we go deeper into the cycle. Of those 58, the most I can count in terms of Democratic defending districts is 10 to 11. The balance are Republican districts. Now, here's the thing. If you are running in Brooklyn, New York, your message is going to be different than if you are running in Brooklyn, Iowa, which just happens to be in one of those competitive Republican districts. And so the one thing that concerns me is Democrats will continue to be fixated on the need for a gold-plated, inside the Beltway, boilerplate message that just doesn't work in the diverse range of districts they need to win. Talking about abolishing ICE and impeachment, it may rev up our base, and that's important, but more importantly, to get the majority and impose checks and balances to this president is winning in right-of-center districts and trusting Democratic candidates to find the message that works in those districts.
So are you worried about too many candidates running as resistance fighters against Donald Trump?
Look, Tip O'Neill said all politics is local. I think he was right. I'm worried about Democrats trying to struggle to find a national message that just doesn't fit with the local mentalities. A good message isn't what you think people should say. It's tapping into how they feel. And voters feel differently in Kansas, which is a competitive district, versus the West Coast and the East Coast.
Former Congressman and perhaps after last night, former Mets fan. Steve Israel, thank you very much.
I'm loyal.
Always good to see you. Thanks.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.